Hello fellow programmers, this is Pavel with a C++ exercise. This is chapter 10, exercise 16 from the book C++ from structures to objects, I think. I forgot what it's exactly called. But anyway, today we will be doing or learning a new language, and it's going to be a Pig Latin. We are to write a program that reads a sentence as an input and then converts each word to Pig Latin. Now, in this version, Pig Latin basically means that we will take the first letter of the word and place it at the end of that word, and then we will also append a string AY to the word. So, for example, the word slept in the sentence "I slept most of the night." We will take the S and then we'll move it to the end, so it would be LEPTSAY, and we will append the AY at the end. Or the word I, since it's only one letter, there's nothing to move. There's nothing to move, so we will simply append AY to the end. Alright, so this is fairly straightforward. Obviously we will be working with strings, so let me include string library, and also we will be getting an input from the user, the initial sentence to translate, so we will need IOStream library as well. Now, the way I'm going to go about this, there's basically 3 steps that we need to follow. First, we need to get each of these words. We need to find out what those words are and then manipulate them according to the Pig Latin version of this program. But before I forget, let me just do the using namespace, because I don't feel like appending std to everything I do, so I'll just be using the namespace. Anyway, so now let's kind of declare the functions that we will be using. So like I said, we need to get each of the words, so it will return a string. I'll just call it get word, and it will accept the string. It will accept either the whole sentence or portion of it that we will manipulate. It will need to translate that into the Pig Latin, so I will just use translate Pig Latin. A little long, but hey, that's not too bad, I guess. And again, it will accept the string that we will, or the word that we will be passing to it. But before we do anything else, we also need to be able to trim each of the strings. For example, if I entered spaces in between the words, not just one space, but let's say I and a bunch of spaces, or leading spaces at the beginning, we need to remove them. We need to trim that. Now this is C++, so there is no built-in trim function unless you wanna use some like a boost library or something. So we will need a function for it ourselves. So once again, it will return the final string, and I'll just call it trim, well, lowercase trim, and again it will accept the string. Okay, so I think that's all for our headers, and we can go and first declare some variables. So we declare the string, that's gonna be the user entered sentence, and then string that I'll call Pig Latin. This will be the translation, and so this is the translated sentence. Oh, and before I forget, I decided that I will be now, unlike before, from this exercise forward, I will be posting the source code as well. The link to the source code will be in the description. So if you don't feel like watching it and you just want to analyze the code yourself, go ahead. but I suggest maybe you watch the video so you see why I'm doing things the way I do, and then it's gonna be easier for you to read the code itself. Alright, so I have my variables, so now let's get the input, and it's gonna be very simple. Cout and something like enter a sentence that you want translated into Pig Latin. So that's our line to alert the user what to do, and now we will collect the input. So we will get line, the whole line from the input, and we'll get in the string itself. We'll pass it to the string. So now our string will hold the sentence that the user actually entered. Okay, so now we need to loop through each of the words, or each character really in that string, and find out what it is. Is it a space? Is it too many spaces? Like like bunch of leading spaces. Then we have to trim them. So that obviously lends itself to a while loop. And how long we gonna loop? Well, we're gonna loop until our string size is greater than 0. In other words, if there's any character left, we keep looping, and when it's not, then we know we reached the end of the sentence or of the string. So let me just comment it out a little. Something like translate and create. Just translate. I don't know. You'll see. Anyway, this is the main loop that we will be running. So the first thing we need to do is to get the word from the string. So I will declare a variable. I'll call it. It's not a comment. Well, get the word from the sentence. So if it's a string, I'll just call it obviously word, and this is where the get word function will be used. So we will simply call the function get word, and we will pass the sentence, which is in the variable str for the string. Now let me create the function now. So it's gonna be string get word, and it accepts string as a parameter. So in this function, in get word function, basically we are to find where the word starts and where the word ends. So, but before we do that, like I said before, we need to eliminate all leading spaces of that word. So we will call our trim function. But before we call it, let me just create it too. So string trim, and it accepts the word or the sentence or the portion of it that we are passing to it. So it will accept a string. I'll just call it str. Okay. So now let's go back to our get word. The first thing, like I said, we will trim it. We will get rid of all the white space, all the spaces, all the leading spaces of the word. So we will call the function and pass the string to it. So I will just comment it, trim any spaces from the beginning of the string. All right, so once it returns the trimmed version of the string, we can now find out the actual word, like what the beginning and the end of the word is. So let's just call integer I for index. I'll initialize it to 0, and we will do another while loop. This time we will do while, and while a string I not equal an empty space, and I is less than the string size. In other words, while we are still not at the end of the word, then we will increase the index. Now we can now use this to do a string dot substring, and because this will give us the length of the word, basically. So it will now we can come and create our word, and it equals to the string of the substring. Starting position is 0, that's the beginning, because we already trimmed it by the spaces, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. We know that it's gonna be a letter or a character. And the length of the word is I, because we looped through our string until the end. And while I was less than the size, once it becomes equal to the size, we are at the end and we exit the while loop. But within this loop we will increase I, and basically it means how many characters of that the string contains. I is the number of characters that the string contains. So over here we can go, I'll just comment it, get the beginning of the word by locating the first space. That's what the first argument is. Until it's not equal to space, basically we are looking for the first space, and that is because each word is separated by a space, and or until the end of the string is reached. So that is our while loop. Now over here we can do the I now equals the length of the word. So copy the string or the part of the string from the beginning to the I. Well, about like that. Okay, so that's basically now our word. So now when we have our word, we need to erase what we already don't need. So we can use the string.erase, and we are erasing that word from the sentence. So that's the beginning, which is 0 index, all the way to I. I is the end of the word. So now our sentence, let's say, remember the beginning, it says I slept. Let's just start from here. Slept most of the night, for example. So we just took care of the word slept and passed it into our variable word. So now we are deleting it. So now our sentence only would have most of the night. So we would come to and do the same with most. We would find out where it starts, where it ends, and pass it to the variable word, then delete it. The sentence now would have of the night, and so on and so on. So basically we are doing one word at a time and deleting it from the sentence. Which reminds me, since we are actually deleting it from the sentence over here, we are manipulating that string directly within our function. We need to do it as a reference, because we are not returning the string itself. The string is being manipulated within this function. It's not being returned. The sentence is not being returned as is, as original, but it's being altered again within the function. So we are using the reference. So I have to come over here as well, and the get word will get it as a reference. Okay, so that should take care of that. Well, and at the end, of course, since we should return our word, because we are storing the word over here. So now we have our word. This is the first word in, let's say, within the first iteration of the while loop, and that will go until the end of the sentence. So now we can add the word to our translated string. So our pick Latin now equals, or basically plus equals, word plus a space at the end. The space is just to separate the words. Otherwise they would be crammed together with no spaces. Basically it would just say, all of this would be like this, like. So that's why I'm adding a space. Okay, so now when the loop is finished, we can display the translation, and that's going to be a cout, and we will display the pick Latin end of line. That's it. And I will pause the screen just to get character, just to pause the screen. So that's we have our word, we have our trim, but now we have to also do the actual translation. We still have to be swapping the characters. All right, so over here when I did the pick Latin, that's our variable. So we can go and create a function. Oh, actually I didn't even do the trim yet. I forgot. Well, the trim function is very simple. We are already calling it from here. So to trim it, we will simply loop. We'll come over here and do a while loop. And while we are, let's say, the string of the index 0, or that's the character, the first character of the string, while it equals an empty space, then we will erase it. And we will erase it from, again, that's gonna be the index 0 and the length of 1, with 1 character at a time. So if I enter something like space, 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 Powell, it will come over here and it checks the first character, which is a space. It is a space, alright, so it erases it. Then it moves, because it says while it is a space, so it checks the next one. Hey, it's still a space. So it goes and deletes that one too. So it goes to the third one. Hey, still a space. Let's delete it. So it deletes it. It comes over here to P. That's P is now our first character, or index 0. It's not a space anymore, so it doesn't delete anything. So that's how we removed all the spaces over here. So this is just I will do erase 1 character at index 0 if it is a space. All right, and we will return the string. So the string will now be trimmed of all white spaces from the left. Okay, so when we are calling it over here, we will pass the string, like I said, let's say space, 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 Powell, and we remove those 3 leading spaces and return the word Powell. All right, so now let's do the translation itself. So it's gonna be, what did I name that again? To translate pick Latin. Translate. All right, translate pick Latin. It accepts a string. This time I'll just name it word, because this is the final word, already trimmed and everything, that we are going to simply adjust. So let's get the first character. Remember, the first character needs to be moved to the end. So our character, I'll just call it first for obvious reasons, is the index of 0 of the word. That's very simple. Basically this gives us the first character and assigns it to our variable first. Now append the letter to the end of the word. So it's going to say something like word dot append. What are we appending? Well, we are appending the first. So we are appending one character. Which one? The first. This is one that we are appending to the word. Alright, so and now we will, well, we need to delete that character again, you know, from the word now. Actually, no, first we need to append the, what was it? AY to the end, so of the whole word. So append AY to the end of the word. So it's say obviously word dot append, and we will append a string AY. So now it will have the word without the first character. The first character will be now at the end of the actual word, and at the end of that, all of that, we will add AY. So now let's delete the first character. So that's very simple. Word.erase. We are erasing the first character, which is index 0. How many characters? 1. And return word. This is our translated word. So that's the Pig Latin translation. Now we need to go to our main method. We already have the Pig Latin kind of put together over here, but before we do that, we need to actually do the translation itself. So we need to call the function. So translate to pig, translate word, not the whole sentence, to Pig Latin. Alright, so that's gonna be our word now, which we declared over here. Remember, we trimmed it, we find out what the word is. Now we are going to translate it. So translate Pig Latin. So we call the translate Pig Latin function, and we will pass the word to it. At this point, the word is already trimmed of all spaces. Like I said, we already have the actual word over here. And then once it is done, we will add it to our string Pig Latin, and you come over here and do the same with the next word of the sentence and next word until the string size is not greater than 0. Means that's the end of the string. We are at the end of the sentence, and we have all the words. So now we can simply output the whole string. All right, well, let me test it. Let's see what we get. It's building. A little slower today, but getting there. Here we are. All right, so it started. That's always a good thing. I should start probably on the new line over there. So, but anyway, let me just start like let me start with leading spaces, 3 spaces, and I will say something like Pavel is the, and I'll use more spaces here. Best programmer ever. So you have it's all spread out. We see with all the spaces in between. Let's see what we get. So we get the word Pavel is AVOL and P, which is the first letter put at the end, and then we append the AY. You can see that the spaces are correct now. We removed all the leading spaces. Then the word is, so we take the letter I, place it at the end of S. So now we have SI and place AY to it. THE, so we take T. So now it's gonna be HET, which it is, with AY at the end. Best, again, EST and B as the first letter will be at the end. EST and B and AY. So you can see that, and the word ever, we remove E, put it at the end, so now it's VERE and AY. So it seems to be working correctly. So the only thing I'm going to do, I'm just gonna put here a new line. So when we start the program, it asks us to input under it, so on the new line. So what if I do it correctly without any leading spaces? It still takes it just fine, whether there are spaces or not. And the translation seems to be okay. The first letter is at the end, and then we append AY to each word. Okay, so this is the exercise. Again, the files will be posted for a download. So just check the description box where you will find a link to it. So if you liked it, please like the video. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe, and I will see you later. Take care.